In every corner of life today, there is noise. The noise of opinions, the noise of comparison, the noise of judgment, and the noise of endless distraction. People wake up and immediately fill their minds with voices from the outside world, messages on screens, constant notifications, the hum of responsibilities, the chatter of others. In this endless stream of sound and demand, it becomes easy to lose the most important voice of all, the one within. Clarity is not found in the chaos of constant movement. It is discovered in silence. When everything around you falls quiet, the truth has the space to rise. Silence is often feared because it feels unfamiliar. For many, the moment there is no distraction, the mind begins to speak too loudly. Old wounds resurface, unprocessed emotions emerge, and thoughts that were buried begin to rise. This is why people drown themselves in busyness and noise. It is easier to escape than to listen. Yet, the very things people try to run from are the keys to their clarity. Silence is not empty, it is full. It is full of answers, lessons, and insights waiting to be heard, but only by those willing to step into it with courage. When silence is embraced, it becomes a mirror. It reflects back the truths you may have ignored. It shows you what matters and what does not. In quiet moments, you realize which pursuits are genuine, and which are born out of pressure or comparison. You notice the difference between desires that come from your soul and distractions that come from the world. This clarity is priceless because it directs your path with intention instead of letting you drift aimlessly through the noise of expectation. Consider how the greatest breakthroughs in history have often come in moments of solitude. Philosophers, leaders, artists, and visionaries retreated into silence not to escape life, but to understand it more deeply. It was in the absence of noise that they connected with the depth of their own thinking, creating ideas and visions that shaped generations. In the same way, when you allow yourself to step back from constant chatter, you begin to access a well of clarity that cannot be found in crowds or chaos. Silence also sharpens intuition. Everyone carries within themselves an inner compass, a natural sense of direction that whispers what feels right and what does not. But this compass is often drowned out by external voices telling you who you should be, what you should want, and how you should live. In silence, those voices fade, and the inner compass can finally be heard. The more you trust it, the clearer it becomes. Decisions that once felt overwhelming begin to feel simple, not because life is suddenly easier, but because your perception has shifted from confusion to clarity. The discipline of silence is not just about withholding words, it is about mastering reactions. When provoked, the instinct is to defend, argue, and prove, but silence in those moments carries unmatched strength. It prevents rash words that may later become regrets, and it forces the other person to confront themselves rather than feeding off your reaction. In staying silent, you preserve your dignity, and in that stillness, you gain clarity about what truly deserves your energy. Many conflicts are prolonged not by the act itself, but by the exchange of endless words. Silence can end battles that anger only fuels. There is also clarity in listening, and true listening requires silence. Too often, people listen only to reply, not to understand. But when you approach others with silence in your heart and mind, you hear not just their words, but their emotions, their fears, and their intentions. This kind of listening creates deeper connections and reveals truths that are hidden beneath surface-level conversations. Silence, therefore, is not only about understanding yourself, but also about understanding others with empathy and awareness. In the stillness of silence, creativity awakens. The mind, freed from constant input, begins to generate ideas and visions of its own. The world's greatest works of art, literature, and music were not born in noise, but in quiet reflection. When the mind is allowed to breathe, imagination takes flight. Silence creates the fertile soil where creativity can root and flourish, producing thoughts and dreams that may never appear in a distracted state. Clarity also requires the slowing down of time, and silence provides this. In noise, everything feels urgent. In silence, you realize what is essential. You begin to separate the temporary from the lasting, the superficial from the meaningful. This separation gives your life direction. Instead of chasing every fleeting demand, you begin to focus on what truly aligns with your purpose. That shift reduces stress, strengthens confidence, and allows you to move forward with certainty rather than confusion. One of the most powerful aspects of silence is that it reveals your strength. Anyone can speak, anyone can react, anyone can fill the air with words, but it takes discipline to withhold, to sit in stillness, and to let time speak for you. When you stay silent, you are no longer caught in the frantic need to prove yourself. You trust that clarity will emerge, and that truth has a way of revealing itself without your constant defense. This kind of strength transforms not only how you see yourself, but also how the world sees you. A calm presence commands more respect than a restless voice. Silence also connects you to the present moment. Noise constantly pulls your mind into the past or the future, replaying what was said or worrying about what might happen. In silence, you return to now. You feel the breath moving in and out, the heartbeat steady in your chest, the simple reality of existing in this moment. And in that presence, clarity emerges because the mind is no longer scattered across timelines, but centered in one reality. Decisions made from the present are always clearer than those clouded by regrets of the past or anxieties about the future. At times, silence may feel like nothing is happening. The world tells you that progress is measured by how busy you are, how loudly you announce yourself, and how fast you move. But silence works differently. It is quiet progress, unseen growth, invisible alignment. Seeds grow in silence beneath the soil before they ever reach the surface. In the same way, silence nurtures growth inside you long before the world can see it. Clarity builds slowly, but when it arrives, it is steady and undeniable. Silence also allows healing. Words can wound, and so can memories. But healing does not happen in constant distraction. It happens in the quiet when you allow yourself to feel fully, to grieve, to release, and to rebuild. Clarity comes not just from thinking but from allowing emotions to settle. Just as muddy water clears when left undisturbed, the heart becomes clear when given the stillness of silence. The practice of silence is a choice. It requires courage to step back from the noise, to turn off distractions, and to sit with yourself. But in that choice, you discover clarity that cannot be found anywhere else. The world may not understand it, because society glorifies loudness and speed, but silence is where the deepest truths reside. It is where decisions are made with wisdom instead of impulse, where peace replaces chaos, and where clarity rises above confusion like the sun breaking through the clouds. Strength has always been misunderstood. Most people equate it with loudness, with aggression, with being the first to respond and the last to back down. Society often teaches that to be strong is to constantly assert, to fight every battle, and to make sure your voice is always heard. Yet the truth is the complete opposite. True strength is not in constant reaction, but in control, not in noise, but in composure, not in outward display, but in inner mastery. Stillness is one of the purest expressions of strength, because it shows discipline, self-awareness, and trust in your own presence. To remain still in the face of provocation is one of the hardest things a human being can do. When insulted, the instinct is to strike back, to defend your worth, to prove the other person wrong. But strength is not in proving. Strength is in knowing that words cannot define you, that insults cannot shape your value, and that you lose nothing by remaining calm. The one who reacts loses control, while the one who remains still holds power. This is why stillness is not weakness, it is power hidden in restraint. In many situations, chaos escalates because people keep feeding it. Anger feeds on anger, gossip feeds on gossip, conflict feeds on reaction. But when you choose stillness, you cut the cycle. You refuse to add energy to something that does not deserve it. It takes immense strength to walk away, to stay quiet, or to sit calmly when others expect you to break. That restraint is not passive, it is active power, the kind that redirects energy towards something far more meaningful. By choosing stillness, you do not let others dictate your behavior. You hold the pen that writes your response instead of letting them write it for you. Stillness is also strength because it requires patience. The modern world thrives on urgency, on the belief that everything must happen now, that delays mean weakness, and that waiting is a loss. But patience is the ability to trust timing, to believe that the right opportunity will arrive without force. To sit still while everything around you screams for action requires a strength that many do not have. It means choosing not to force doors open, but to wait for the right ones to unlock naturally. The strongest individuals are not those who move the fastest, but those who know when not to move at all. To be still also means to be deeply aware. In stillness, you observe rather than react. You notice details that others overlook, you hear words that others dismiss, you see patterns that others miss in their rush to respond. This awareness gives you an edge in life because strength is not only physical or emotional, it is also intellectual. The one who listens longer, who observes with patience, and who speaks less often has the advantage of clarity. Stillness strengthens perception, and perception leads to wiser decisions. Strength is often mistaken for dominance, but dominance fades quickly when it is not backed by true presence. Presence comes from stillness. When you are calm, grounded, and unshaken, your very being communicates strength without a single word spoken. People trust a calm leader more than a restless one. People feel safe around someone whose energy is steady, not explosive. That is the quiet authority that stillness creates, a strength so firm that it does not need to shout. Stillness is also the strength of self-control. Every person faces moments when emotions threaten to take over. Fear pushes one to retreat, anger pushes one to attack, anxiety pushes one to rush decisions. But when you cultivate stillness, you train yourself to pause before reacting. That pause is powerful, because it is in that small space between emotion and action that your true strength is revealed. Anyone can lash out, but not everyone can hold themselves steady. The ability to master yourself, especially in moments of intensity, is one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. Consider how water behaves. When calm and still, it reflects everything around it with perfect clarity. When disturbed, it distorts reality, creating confusion. Human strength works in the same way. A still mind reflects truth clearly, while a restless mind distorts decisions and perspectives. The strength of stillness is that it keeps your inner world aligned, no matter how chaotic the outer world becomes. In that alignment, you find resilience, because storms cannot shake what is anchored deeply. There is also strength in silence, which is inseparable from stillness. Silence protects your energy. Not every fight deserves your words, not every provocation deserves your attention, and not every challenge deserves your immediate answer. Sometimes silence is the loudest response, the one that unsettles the aggressor because they cannot draw power from you. Silence is not the absence of strength, it is the highest form of it, because it shows you do not need validation, you do not need to defend every opinion, and you do not need to prove anything to those who misunderstand you. Stillness also demonstrates confidence. The insecure are restless. They cannot bear silence, because silence exposes them. But the confident sit calmly, unafraid of judgment, unafraid of pauses, unafraid of waiting. Confidence does not rush, it does not need to announce itself, it simply exists, and stillness is the language through which it speaks. People are drawn to those who embody this calm strength, because it radiates stability in a world that constantly feels unstable. Strength through stillness is also about endurance. Life will test patience, endurance, and resilience with delays, failures, and hardships. The strongest are not those who never fall, but those who can stand still in faith while storms pass. They endure pain without letting it break them, they wait without giving up hope, and they trust without demanding immediate results. This ability to endure, to hold ground, to remain unshaken in adversity, is one of the clearest demonstrations of strength. There is also strength in choosing peace when war is easier. To fight, to argue, to lash out is often the easier option. It requires no discipline, but to remain calm, to hold your peace, and to act only when it truly matters requires strength that many lack. Peace is not the absence of power, it is the proof of it. A person who can remain peaceful in the face of chaos is not weak but powerful, because they are not controlled by external events. They control themselves, and that mastery is strength in its purest form. Stillness builds resilience because it teaches you to be comfortable with discomfort. When you sit still, when you remain silent, you confront your own fears, insecurities, and doubts. Instead of running from them, you face them. And in that confrontation, you build the strength to move through them. The restless never confront themselves. They drown their thoughts in distraction. But those who embrace stillness build an inner fortress, strong enough to withstand not just the noise of others, but the storms within themselves. Strength is often associated with doing, but stillness teaches that strength is just as much about not doing. Resisting the urge to act prematurely, to speak unnecessarily, or to chase desperately requires more power than constantly moving. Inaction is not weakness when it is chosen consciously, it is strategy. Stillness is the strength of restraint, the wisdom to know when movement will harm rather than help, and the discipline to wait until the right moment arrives. There is a unique authority that comes from stillness. It is the authority of someone who does not need to prove, who does not need to rush, who does not need to dominate. Their strength is undeniable, even in silence, because it is rooted in discipline, patience, and presence. That kind of authority cannot be taken away because it does not rely on external approval. It comes from within, and once you discover it, it transforms how you face the world. Life has a rhythm, a natural unfolding that cannot be rushed, controlled, or forced, no matter how much effort is applied. From the rising of the sun to the blooming of a flower, from the change of seasons to the journey of rivers, everything in nature teaches us that timing is not dictated by impatience, but by balance. Yet human beings often believe they can bend time to their will, that by pushing harder, speaking louder, or moving faster, they can force life to deliver on their demands. In that restless pursuit, peace is lost, clarity is clouded, and opportunities are sometimes destroyed before they even have the chance to arrive. To trust the flow of life is to understand that what is meant for you will come, not through desperate force, but through alignment, patience, and openness. Trusting the flow of life requires letting go of the illusion of control. Many spend years exhausting themselves trying to manipulate outcomes, fighting against circumstances, and forcing situations to match their desires. They cling tightly, afraid that loosening their grip means losing everything. Yet the truth is that the tighter you hold on, the more resistance you create. Life is not meant to be strangled into submission. It is meant to be embraced like a river, flowing naturally toward where it is destined to go. When you trust that flow, you stop exhausting yourself with battles that were never yours to fight. You begin to realize that control is not power, it is fear disguised as strength. True power is surrender, the ability to release the need for force and trust that life knows its timing better than you ever could. There is freedom in surrender, and with that freedom comes peace. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, holding an umbrella with both hands, shaking against the wind, trying to stop the rain from falling. That is what resisting life feels like, an endless fight against forces you cannot control. Now imagine lowering that umbrella, letting the rain fall, letting the wind move around you, and simply standing there with acceptance. The storm may not stop, but your struggle against it does. This is what trusting the flow of life offers. The strength to stand with peace, even when life does not move according to your plans. Trusting the flow does not mean being passive or doing nothing. It means taking action where you can, but understanding that not every door is meant to be opened by force. Sometimes the rejection you face is protection. Sometimes the delay you experience is preparation. Sometimes the path that seems blocked is only redirecting you towards something greater. When you stop fighting against life and start moving with it, you begin to see patterns, connections, and opportunities that were invisible before. It is like swimming with the current of a river instead of against it. You conserve your energy, you move farther, and you arrive where you are meant to be with less resistance. This trust also requires faith in timing. Modern culture thrives on immediacy. People want instant success, instant validation, instant results, but the deepest things in life, growth, healing, wisdom, love, cannot be rushed. Just as a seed cannot bloom the day after it is planted, your journey cannot unfold overnight. To trust the flow is to understand that every stage of life has its purpose. The waiting season teaches patience, the struggle season builds resilience, the abundant season rewards discipline. Each has its role, and trying to skip one only weakens your foundation. Timing is not your enemy, it is your ally, shaping you into who you need to be for what lies ahead. The flow of life often takes you to unexpected places, and trusting it means embracing uncertainty. This can be frightening, because humans crave certainty, plans, and guarantees. But the truth is that certainty is an illusion, and clinging to it only creates fear when life inevitably shifts. By trusting the flow, you open yourself to possibility. You begin to see uncertainty not as a threat, but as a space for new opportunities. What may feel like an ending today may actually be a beginning. What seems like loss may be making space for something greater. The flow is rarely linear, but it is always purposeful, and learning to trust it is learning to live without fear of the unknown. Trusting the flow also changes how you see failure. Instead of seeing it as proof that you are unworthy or incapable, you begin to see it as guidance. A closed door is not rejection, it is redirection. A mistake is not punishment, it is education. When you move with the flow, you stop labeling experiences as purely good or bad. You begin to understand that each step, whether painful or joyful, is a necessary part of your journey. This perspective transforms fear into gratitude, because you realize that even setbacks carry you forward when you trust where life is leading you. There is also deep strength in trusting relationships to the flow of life. People often cling to others out of fear, forcing connections, holding on when it is time to let go, or chasing approval where it will never be found. But when you trust the flow, you stop forcing bonds. You understand that the right people will remain, the wrong ones will fall away, and those who are meant for your journey will walk alongside you naturally. Relationships that align with your spirit do not need to be manipulated. They grow effortlessly, rooted in authenticity rather than desperation. To live in trust of the flow is also to align with nature. Nature never rushes, yet everything is accomplished. The sun does not rise a moment too soon or too late. The tide does not arrive in panic or delay. The flower does not bloom in January, nor does it hold itself back in June. Everything happens in rhythm, and when you align yourself with that rhythm, you find peace. Life is not meant to be a constant chase. It is meant to be a dance, a partnership between your actions and the natural unfolding of the universe. When you understand this, you no longer push against the current. You let the current carry you while steering with intention. Trusting the flow does not mean you will never face storms. Life will bring challenges, losses, and moments of uncertainty. But when you live in trust, you do not collapse under them. You see storms as temporary, as part of the rhythm, as necessary for growth. Just as the rain nourishes the earth, struggles nourish your strength. Just as the winter prepares the soil for spring, challenges prepare you for the blessings ahead. Trusting the flow means believing that even in the darkest moments, the light is already on its way. Patience becomes easier when you trust that nothing real can ever be lost. What is meant for you will always find its way. no matter how delayed, no matter how impossible it seems. The friendships, opportunities, and dreams aligned with your purpose cannot be taken from you, because they are tied to your path. The chase for what does not belong to you only leaves you exhausted, while the patience for what does belong to you leaves you fulfilled. This is the gift of trust. It removes fear of loss, because you know what is truly yours will always return, in one form or another. Trusting the flow also softens your heart. It allows you to let go of bitterness, resentment, and resistance. When you believe life is working for you rather than against you, you no longer need to carry anger toward those who wronged you or regret over what you lost. You accept that even pain has purpose, even endings have meaning, and even detours bring you closer to where you are meant to be. This acceptance does not make life easy, but it makes it lighter, because you no longer fight against everything that does not go your way. Living in trust of the flow also expands your ability to be present. When you are not constantly worried about forcing the future, you can finally enjoy the moment you are in. You notice the beauty of simple things, a conversation, a sunrise, a breath, without needing them to be more than they are. This presence is powerful because it grounds you. The future is built not by constant worry, but by the small choices you make in the present, and trusting the flow allows you to focus on those choices with clarity and peace. To trust the flow of life is to believe that you are exactly where you need to be, even if it does not match your expectations. It is to believe that life is not happening to you but for you. It is to let go of the fear that you are behind, that you are missing out, or that you are not enough. The flow reminds you that your path is your own, incomparable to anyone else's, and that every step you take is perfectly timed.